A privilege to be here to talking to you and bringing about a very important point which impact the quality of education in this country across to you. We're talking about universities are for students, pretty common sense, and all we know, the common sense is something which is missing in the business most of the time. And in colleges, when you and me been to the college, it was just not sufficient to understand what teacher is saying. We need to reproduce and get the marks, and that's how the colleges get the ranking. That's how the student gets his skill being proven into industry. So connecting between the teachers and the student is at the heart of the functioning of any university or any institute for that matter. So I'm going to talk about a pretty basic thing, which is very human-centric as far as the existence and performance of the universities are concerned. So what we talk is the connection between the teacher and the student is something called intelligibility of the sound. Essentially means the teachers are getting what students are saying and students are getting what teachers are saying. It's a two-way communication. And for that, the principal thing is the design, the structure of the building and the treatment which is done inside the building need to be appropriate. And once we achieve intelligibility of the sound in the space given, the mechanical noises, the noises because of the ACs or the fans, they need to protect the environment which is inside. This is a two-step process which happen into any education spaces which you build. We say who is more risk in the colleges. Like these days the teachers may feel that students are more advanced. But yes, the students are at more risk when it comes to with respect to acoustics. They are giving their time of their life, and that's the only time available for them to educate themselves. And normally when we've been into the schools and colleges, what we find is the toppers are in the front bench, and the back benchers are really backbencher. And why do that happen? Because of lack of proper acoustics inside the space. And when we say that the students are not effective listener, there are multiple factors to it. And it's good to dwell on those factors because that is the core of learning in the classroom. When we talk about the students, they have thousands of things happening in their head. So they are not as effective listeners as adults are. And more so in higher education, when the new theories been introduced, new words and new terminology being spoken to them, they are not familiar with those words. Plus, they are not learning in their primary language. They are learning in English, which is the second language or third language. And depending upon the professors and his pronunciation, the word may appear different. That gives more emphasis on having proper acoustical environment into the space. Plus, 20 to 30% of the students do develop some bit of hearing loss, which is temporary or permanent. Permanent maybe because of iPod and mobile phones which they use, and temporary because of environmental changes and ENT infection which happen throughout the class. Whole in whole, it gives very high importance around acoustics inside the classroom for the proper education to exist in the space. And we as an adult, if we go and sit in the same class, we may find it perfectly okay. But the young one who is learning it for the first time do not find it so. And this study done by Acoustic Society for Education in US really clarifies this statistically. Articulation index is an objective measure of the clarity of the sound in the space. 0.8 is a superb index to have, where adult will get 100% of the words spoken in that space, where the young one lose 10%. But what we have in our environment is around 0.6 to 0.4, wherein they tend to lose 30 to 40% of the word. Now just imagine, if somebody is not getting 3 or 4 words in 10 words spoken in a class, what will be his learning ability? What he will feel about the subject? Either he will say, subject is not good or teacher is not interesting. And that is because of the effect of the treatment which we provide inside the classroom. Now this is a case study of very successful 50-year-old school. And why I'm taking this case study out here is because this is very, very same example as we have in our current colleges and universities. Very hard surfaces when it comes to the floor, walls and the ceilings, which is essentially the space which we provide for learning hour after hour. And the reverberation time out there is more than 1 second. And human brain can distinguish a sound moment it is reflected more than 0.5 second delay. So essentially there exist two sounds when it is reflected beyond 18 feet or 14 feet. So we did a acoustical intervention and we put a ceiling which brought down the time to less than 0.6 seconds in this space. Now what I'm going to show you a short video of 1 minute. This is a note given by a teacher who found a difference before and after doing the acoustical intervention. The NC standard, the American standard for schools, talks about 0.6 seconds as a minimum criteria to have into education spaces. So this is the short video from the teacher.
Started out with my usual tone, which is loud because I'm hearing a lot of extraneous sounds, pencils, paper, windows, and I did not hear that today. It was great. I was just hearing their voices, and I also noticed that I could hear them better. They were talking softly today. I could hear them better. Usually I get some hesitation after I ask a question, and I find myself repeating the question, or did everyone hear the question? I get a lot of no's. Today I found that I was able to do more teaching in the same amount of time. I felt like I was closer to my children today, and they were closer to me, instead of always reaching and straining. Overall, the kids seemed more interested, and I think it's because they didn't have to focus on me telling them that I can't hear you, or their classmates telling them they couldn't hear them. And then I think it just was less of a distraction.
So what she said was extremely profound. She felt more connected to the students, and all of us do some teaching in the classroom. We feel when we are bingo and connected with our students and when we are not. So there's a different fun in learning, there's a different speed in learning. You can cover up more syllabus. The efficiency of the teacher goes up to the next level. The students feel more enlightened when they attend the class, not bored and faded. And that's how the university became a great university, or a college became a great college. It is all about what happened hour after hour, minute after minute, inside the classroom that determined the quality of education. Yes, we need a good infrastructure. We need a great teacher. We need a good student. And we do our part of thing in terms of selecting student. We put them to the test, and we put the teachers also to the training programs. But what happened? Why don't we get uniform results across the student fraternity which we have in our colleges? Just because the connection between them, hour after hour, is something at the heart of their learning ability inside the classroom. So somebody called architect build a space and do some treatment also. Our ultimate objective of all the expenditure which we are putting up to put up the building and the institute and the running cost of the institute is to provide a healthy and a productive place for the occupant of the building. Now, we spend more time in the spaces which we build where we work than our homes. And if that space is more productive and healthy, we can make more results out of it. The entire expenditure which we do is ultimately to make sure that human performances in that building, be it auditorium or a classroom or a library, is at the level of excellence what we can achieve. So acoustic comfort is a new term which is getting introduced into green buildings for indoor environmental quality. This is the first step toward bringing in acoustics as a heart of designing of any facility which exists. Now, which essentially means 4 components. Means intelligibility of the sound, means privacy of the sound, means low distraction, annoyance, and concentration wherever appropriate. Now, these are the 4 dimensions of acoustical comfort, and each area which we design has a different requirement toward acoustical comfort. For example, like classroom, we require very high intelligibility and very high concentration. We want teacher and student to understand each other clearly. We also do not want any external noise to come in and distract the learning ability and the flow of the learning which is happening inside the classroom. When it comes to office or teacher's private office, we require a privacy as main thing. So people should not overheard outside that room what has been spoken inside. Let's take an example of a passage on a corridor in a university or a college. Involuntary movement will keep on happening there. And so when somebody talk in the passage, all the classroom in an entire learning in the passage will get distracted because of the involuntary movement happening there. The solution could be for that is absorb that sound there and then and does not allow it to go into the classroom. Now that looks very simple but so profound because it impacts every day and every hour of existence of the education institute. Now this is some of the practices which goes around that. When teaching happen inside the classroom, what we really want is direct sound from teacher going to the students. Now this sound is something which is good. We also happy with early reflection. So the hard surface behind teacher is good because it reflects the sound in the same frequency of the original speech. But what we don't want is the late reflections and echoes. Anything which is more than 15 to 18 feet has potential to reflect sound more than 0.5 seconds of delay. And so our classroom, which is more than 50 to 60 students, are the largest size classrooms where echo does exist. So only parameter we have in our hand is to control the size of the room, the shape of the room, and the surface treatment which we do. That is at the heart of giving the proper acoustics inside this place. This is a small case study where teacher is speaking at 6 dB in this case. And the student at the last row is getting 48 dB. So with the background noise of 55 dB. Now these days there are a lot of apps available on the phone called Sound Meter. You can just download those apps and measure a background noise in your space. So if the background noise is 55 dB, which is a normal case into running institute, the minus 7 dB is at the last row, and 10 dB less is half loud. That's acoustics, it's a logarithmic. So minus 7 dB is a really bad learning environment. Now in the same setup for the same student, if we just change the orientation of the class, we get 54 dB, which is minus 1 dB, far better learning environment. And this is the best situation to have for having classes where the teacher could be in the center, and that is possible in higher education for case studies kind of environment. So just to summarize, the ceiling systems can provide a simple solution, the most cost-effective solution to manage the reverberation time into the space. Just to give an example, the 2-second reverberation time sound like this.
This is a demonstration of room reverberation in architectural space.
This is like unbearable. 2 seconds, we can't understand what this guy is saying.
This is a demonstration of room reverberation in an architectural space.
Now this is the same sound in two different environments. One is treated, one is untreated. And it doesn't matter how hard you listen or how loud you listen. Acoustics is a function of brain to understand and listen. So we need to treat the space to make it more productive. So acoustical ceiling solutions gives the most economical way. If the room is large enough like this, then treating some of the walls with diamond kind of shapes, some wall treatment, the farthest wall from the source of sound or one of the shorter wall is enough to be treated. If it is a larger room, then having some floats like this can actually, the picture down there can help to break the sound path and give a sound clarity. The last option is to put a carpet or a vinyl floor onto the flooring, which can also enhance the absorption in the space. All in all, the requirement is to provide a 0.6 reverberation time into the space, which will enhance the sound clarity. And once we achieve that, we got to be extremely mindful about where our windows are, where the traffic movement is, where the generator sets and AC units are located, so that sound is not coming inside the space and distracting the clarity which is there. Even adding the ceiling systems give us impact isolation class. So the movement which happen on above floor, the sound which come from the above floor is also isolated to enhance the learning system. We got to be mindful about how our walls are built and what kind of STC we have in these walls, so that the learning ability is maintained in the space. So the background noise requirement as per NC standard is 35 dB, which is very stringent. The lead talks about 40 dB as a background noise to have. And the moment you have a low background noise, your articulation of the language is far, far better. Now imagine a situation where the background noise is 50 dB or 60 dB. You can only talk by shouting in that space. Now that's where the language skill goes out of the window. And India has produced a lot of good engineers and doctors, mainly because of the subject which are taught on the board right from the beginning. So they get communicated to the classes and the masses in a bigger effective way than the language skill. And you find the student which comes to higher education do lack skills with respect to languages because they are not taught properly right from the beginning in the school level. So coming back to the short introduction about Armstrong. Armstrong is a 152-year-old company, globally present with more than 32 manufacturing plants, truly leader into the segment. We present across the globe with more than 60-70% market share, and really high quality manufacturer. of the products and services which we provide. And green and hygiene is the heart of our existence, and we make quality ceilings and floorings and wall products. This is a case study of IISER Pune. This is one of the institute we got engaged with them through architect and direct end customer quite early in the stage, and if you have an opportunity, this is a very good learning environment where they use different product in different spaces to provide proper acoustical comfort, be it auditorium, the passage, the learning labs, the student rooms, everywhere they use appropriate product as per the merit. There are innovation solutions like this which can actually make the spaces looks better. The library rooms and the planks options are available. So you can treat this, the place as per the merit of the place, depending upon what kind of humidity you have, what kind of design requirement which you have, which is a part of the image of the institute also. So acoustical wall treatment which comes in fabric and the wood finish can actually enhance the aesthetics and performance of the space too. And mostly the universities and colleges are using our products in auditorium per se, thinking that that's where the problem exists, mainly because the reverberation time is something like 2 seconds out there in those spaces. And they are the early one, they do some treatment out there. But my real submission and real appeal to this group is the classroom where we live with 1 second or 0.9 seconds kind of reverberation time. If we get it to the real to the 0.6 second, which is the standard globally exists for learning ability, we can impact the learning quality in Indian education systems in a much bigger way. So that's what we say. Idea to reality is our theme. We say creative man is motivated by desire to achieve, not by desire to beat others. And success in leadership is all about being better than your former self than to worry about somebody else. So it's the small improvement which makes remarkable results when it comes to the long-term perspective of education.